Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another episode on the Healthy Reset. We are talking again with the White Rose community and about menopause and all the changes that are happening and the symptoms and so on. So tonight we have with us a guest speaker, an awesome lady, and I'm going to introduce her in a moment. And our first guest speaker. So Anaiis, we've been doing this for a little while, and it's the first time, usually me and Nurse Maria, who is our co-founder and our brainchild of the White Rose community, we're usually ones doing all the presentations. And tonight we decided we needed some more people to come and help heal our community of women going through menopause and their excellent partners. So it's not just the women. So Anaiis, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce her. So fasten your seatbelts and get ready for a wellness adventure like no other. Our next speaker is a global guru in the art of self-care, here to rescue all you super achievers and chronic overgivers from the clutches of burnout. She's the go-to international wellness consultant for those dynamic, passionate, and creatives, and a powerhouse feminine entrepreneurs who juggle their sensitivities in this wild, toxic, over-medicated world. She helps these incredible individuals who are always producing impactful bottom-line results for others, define and defend the strong boundaries they need to recharge their vibrant, high-quality energy. Please give a warm welcome to the Queen of Regeneration and Boundary Setting, Anaiis Salles.
Hi, everybody. Glad to be with you.
And we're so happy to have you, Anaiis, and thank you so much for coming on the Healthy Reset. We're looking forward to all you have to share with us tonight. So let's start off with a little bit of we're going to do it like an interview style, but let's get interactive in it. And folks, if you have any questions, post it in the chat or put your hands up and we'll bring you on to present your questions. So, Anaiis, tell us a little bit about yourself. I know I said a little bit, but let's know some more.
Well, first of all, I'm delighted to be a woman at this time. I love being a woman. I'm happy being a woman. I, at this age, have really gotten comfortable with all the really beautiful power that women hold and have, and that we're just about on the precipice of really fully expressing in balance in our lives. So I've been doing what I do, which is in the realm of spirituality and energy healing and life coaching, and supporting both men and women in achieving balance that I think will help us move forward in our lives today, and our children and our grandchildren and future generations as we're going through these massive, massive changes. And it's happening for all of us. So I've been fortunate. And like everybody else in the world, I have lived up to now a 360-degree life, which for me means the best of the best and the worst of the worst and everything in between. And when you're a woman, you've got to balance that stuff. And you have to find the resources, both internally and externally, to stay healthy, wealthy, wise, and to keep that going. Just keep it going. If you'd like to know more, I've written a book. I've written 3 books, but the first book that I wrote about the nature of how things unfolded to me and transitioning from being a professional who some days made $10,000 a day being a certified shorthand court reporter. And that was a great, great, great gig for me because I had a husband in medical school at that time, and I used to go and record his lectures to help him have those and to help me grow my vocabulary as a court reporter. And this enabled me to move into the area of expertise of medical malpractice cases and environmental cases, where I was having to listen with really wide open ears to experts in the field, many of whom in these cases would be, quote, called foreigners. And they would have accents. And I was able to hear the accents and not have any difficulty understanding. So the accuracy rate of my transcripts was very high, and I did very well, and I learned a lot. But the best thing that I learned was how to listen.
Yes, a very, very tough skill to learn, and that's active listening. So let's dive into some health tips. So can you share a health tip that you would recommend that most people may disagree with?
Yes, and I recommend this based on experience. And that is, I think women and men can look at the value of intermittent fasting. I think that when we really look at a more natural way in which we would be hunter-gatherers, if we were living more naturally, some days we would have fish, days we might have a little meat, have anything. Some days we'd have berries and nuts, and we'd find some natural grains. And so there would be a time when our bodies were used to having the relationship of fasting as we've worked with the rhythms of our environments. I happen to think that intermittent fasting, water fasting, and keto, which is also a little bit of protein, a little bit of fruit, and less carbohydrates, because one of the things that's been important in my understanding about how I care for myself is the question of plantation foods and the question of the energy that plantation foods hold. Coffee, like tea. All of those major food industries were founded on slavery. And so they carry a certain energy. And when I work with clients, I suggest that the fasting sometimes needs to be a period of fasting from coffee, from tea, and from white sugar, as we give the body a chance to relax from the subtle energy messages that are in that food, historically and genetically, just as all the other information that is around us is in who we are and what we eat.
So you mentioned some really, really key points there. One of the first ones I want to expand on a little bit is you mentioned energy and energy with foods. And why I'm bringing this up is because everybody thinks from a medical point of view, we're scientists, and this energy thing might be a little bit woo-woo. But I say it's not true, because in physics, we understand from the science of physics that energy is neither created nor destroyed, but moved from one form to another. And I always say there's energy surrounding all of us. Like we talk about getting energy from the ground, absorbing energy from the sun to convert vitamin D. So when you talk about energy in foods, what do you mean by that? I mean, the energy of sugars, or the energy of staying away from coffee and tea or caffeine as a whole. Expand a little bit on that, and let's share with the community. Why I'm saying this is because in menopause, in our research that me and Maria have been going through over the last few years, for the last few months, some of these things like coffee, tea, sugars have a direct impact on the menopausal symptoms. Like in my case, I talk about nutrition, and I talk about how things like the food you eat can actually decrease your energy, causing brain fog. And in the Caribbean, we have something called the old itis. I can't say the first part of the word, but postprandial depression, the scientific term for it, when you eat lunch and then suddenly you have to sleep. So
yes,
let's talk about that. When from a scientific point of view, I can explain the life out of that. But from an energy point of view, how do you see food connecting us and our energies? And where would you go with this?
We're inseparable. The first thing that I work with when I work and teach with clients is that everything is energy first. Everything, and I do mean everything, is energy first. And everything in the creation that we're living in right now, that energy takes on the form of awareness and consciousness and relationship. So energy and information do form a relationship, and that exists in our relationship with everything on this planet that we either eat or we don't eat. And so one of the things that our ancestors learned was which foods consistently produced healthy energy and stamina and strength for the community. They learned which foods were poisonous, which means that the energetic interaction between that particular food, or edible or non-edible, had a very direct detrimental impact on us to the point of killing our bodies. So we've learned a lot, and science is learning more and more. But this is one of the things I say to people all the time. Energy, like oxygen, is invisible, but you can't live without either. We cannot survive without energy, and oxygen being invisible helps me to have people understand about what we can be surrounded by that is absolutely essential to life. So when I think about consciousness in food, this is, I think, a very important point, because sometimes in the cultures that we may live in, if we've been in cultures where slavery has been a part of the culture, and that's certainly true in the United States where I live, then you have an energy of pain and suffering and abuse that is in a direct relationship with the people who are working the process of growing, harvesting, and producing the end product of those foods. Now, when they get into the factory, that's a whole other different story. But for many, many, many years, this process was not mechanized. It was not mechanized. It was done by hand. It was done by hand. And it was done by incredibly strong, beautiful, powerful people who had the stamina in really difficult environments to withstand the kind of work that had to be done to bring those things to bear. They did not have comfortable lives. When you touch something, when you prepare food for your family or yourself, and you feel safe and you feel strong and you feel good, that's information. And that information resounds as energy in what becomes the taste of the food that you serve. It's part of what you put, any ingredient that you incorporate in what you cook for yourself, for your family, for your loved ones. And we all know the joy, the pure joy of eating foods that are vibrant and fresh and full of energy, and that are part of our celebrations with ourselves and each other. So I hope that helps frame where I'm coming from as a practitioner, because that's the foundation for how I relate to everyone I work with and how I relate to my environment and the things and what I choose to eat.
Excellent. So let's dive into what you do with your 9EQ method. I was reading up a little bit of it, but I didn't get very deep. And let's talk a little bit about that. So what do you do? What is the 9EQ method? How does it apply? And do you see a connection between that and women going through menopause and a hormonal change, going from the reproductive to the non-reproductive years?
Yes. So I will qualify this by saying I am an elder. I have been through menopause seamlessly, without a ripple, without any kind of a hot flash or nothing. And so I began eating organically at age 25. And I brought in organic foods. I did that because I was going to be a mother, and I wanted to make sure that my little baby that was in the oven had the best quality of nutrition that it would get from my body. So I made the choice to eat organically. And I have found that to be a very, very powerful choice. But my 9EQ method, the EQ stands for essential questions. And I found over time that there are 9 essential questions that we can all use along with active listening to make really great choices, to be aware of the choices that we have. So in the work that I do a lot of deep spiritual and awareness raising, and let me give you some great recipes, and let's figure out what's going on with your metabolism, working in collaboration with medicine and science. So the essential question, because that came to me when I was dying at age 24 from an undiagnosed illness. Nobody could tell me what was wrong with me. I was down to 80 pounds. And I looked in the mirror and I knew I was dying. Nobody could tell me why. One kidney had shut down. I had a 3-year-old child. I had just moved into what we thought would be our dream house. We were going to do organic food and a bed and breakfast. And when I couldn't do anything but lay on the sofa and ponder death and ponder life and ponder the in-between, I began asking a lot of questions. The first one, of course, that most people go to is, why me? Because when we're in a situation like that, sometimes we feel like we're being victimized. But I soon discovered there was another whole layer of information when I stopped asking why me and I began to ask, what if? And that question empowered me to connect with physicians who were finally able to diagnose me, even though I had the fact that I had developed secondary infertility and could not have another child, that had been made clear through tests. Very, very painful for me, very heartbreaking. Asking the right questions will get you not only the information you need, but the connection to the solution, to the problem that is really going to take you where you want to go. So this is what I do with my clients, and we go into a lot of tell the stories of our families. We go into our genetic history. We go into our family dynamics. We look at the foods that we've eaten and how we've been enculturated to respond to life in certain ways where we are not exercising choice. And when your body, you have a birthright bliss. I'm going to share this with you, Dr. Khan, and your audience, because a lot of this is, I haven't heard this anywhere else, and I've been around a lot of places for a lot of years. I would like to acknowledge that everyone here on this call tonight was born, brought into existence through a moment of bliss. This is inescapable. We are born through bliss. And sometimes, and we go through this in the origin release work, sometimes that bliss just belonged to the father. But sometimes the bliss experience as part of conception is mother and father. And this is who we are. We wouldn't exist without bliss. And so what I find with people who have hoarding issues or anemia or anorexia or bulimia and distortions in how they're in relationship to food and their own bodies will ultimately lead back to how do we rekindle your bliss. People with addictions, the human body cannot live without bliss. We're designed to be blissful beings. It's one of the fun parts about being in a Caribbean country is that you kind of still have a handle on that, which is amazing. Lots of places just are so alienated from it that they look at me and they go like this, like, what is she talking about? But we really do have, the human body is designed to live life purpose, relationships through bliss. And when we don't get that bliss energy naturally and organically, we settle for substitutions. And those substitutions can kill us. Whether it's drug addiction, whether it's pornography, whether it's not having gotten the understanding of what good basic nutrition is in your family, and that happens a lot. I mean, we know everybody can eat junk food. It's so easy to get, and it's packaged, and it's made to look like it's good for you when it's not. So the work that I do really does go that deep into who you are and why you are and how you are. And what if you could really get the answer for what's not working for you and have a choice to change it?
Powerful stuff. Oh my goodness. I feel moved already. So one of the things I want to expand on, one of the things that comes up in our community is when women are going through menopause, there's a shift from the reproductive to the non-reproductive years. And that shift leads to a shift in intimacy.
Yes.
And a lot of women have said, they blame their divorces on the menopause change. 7 out of 10 of them, in fact, have said this. How can your 9EQ method be helpful in terms of improving, getting that bliss and, recreating that bliss in in your relationship with your partner that
Yes.
allows you to then not only, and some women, I mean, your menopause journey was really good, but some women are so overwhelmed that they can't even go to work. And we've heard this from testimonials from women in our community who said, I couldn't even get out of bed, right?
Yes.
And I can imagine that translating to their relationships, not just with their partners, but with their children, with their friends, with family members. I mean,
Yes.
how can this method be useful in a situation like that?
One of the other powerful things that I learned when I was dying at 24 was acceptance. I had to accept that I was really sick. I had to accept that I had no energy. I had to accept that I couldn't get up. I had to lay on the sofa every day after fixing breakfast for my husband and my son. That form of acceptance, not fighting what your experience is. When you're ill, when you're fatigued, when there's a disease process going on, and menopause is a natural process. What is the relationship that we have to our bodies? And I think women have a much, much different, if you want to call it a struggle, to get to the place where before they reach menopause, they are feeling fully empowered as human beings. When and if you haven't reached that place of being fully empowered in your life, and this is not about money, this is not about material things. This is about who you are in your daily life with the people you love, with the people you don't like. How do you find the empowerment and the love for being a woman just exactly as you are and move into the space of acceptance and not only that, receiving? Because I think many women who struggle with menopause have had difficulty over a lifetime before they got there in receiving. They've been the powerhouse of the family. They've been the backbone. They've been the support. They've been there for the kids. They've done all of this. But what have they received in return? What kind of support? What kind of patience? What kind of mini vacation? What kind of someone coming home and saying, I love you, I respect you, you're so amazing in my life? This relationship with ourselves is something that we need to be the anchor for. It's a choice that we make. And that empowerment is a form of energy. If you're going through menopause and it's difficult and you're uncomfortable and there are complications, I made a list of the three biggest unhappy experiences that women have during menopause because those are real. How you choose to be in relationship to that as a woman who is in receptive mode of self-love and self-care can make all the difference. It will make the difference between you're choosing to work with herbs or homeopathy or struggling. I mean, I think of all the women now who are in crisis over Ozempic. Ozempic. Right? So who are you in your empowerment sexually? How do you hold your feminine energy in your sexuality? And it is not dependent on a man. That's something that we should teach all our young women and our young men, that our bliss, pleasure is not dependent on another human being. If someone leaves us, if someone finds suddenly we're unattractive, let them go. Stay connected to yourself and your body and love who you are. If you need to lay in bed and cry, do that. That's a way to open to receiving. If you need to have a sister or a beloved friend come and sit with you and feel what you're experiencing and share what you're experiencing. As you're asking questions, what if this could change? Who do I have to be part of that transformation? I would say that as a community of women, this is our time to do this with each other, no matter what age we are. And it's our time to introduce this to our girl children, to our female children. So sexuality, if you've got a man who's walking away from you and doesn't want to touch you, touch yourself. Engage your own bliss and let him see how you're gorgeous and radiating, because you're allowing that energy to flow through every energy center in your body. And you don't need him for that. That, I will tell you, is very attractive. It's very attractive. Because what is a man when he leaves a woman who's in menopause? What's he doing? He's going to try to find that somewhere else. Well, okay, okay. If that's who he is, let him go. But who are you in that dynamic? Who are you? Your fire, your feminine fire is yours to steward. And I'm getting chills, your feminine fire is not something you allow any other human being to extinguish for you for any reason, even when you're down, even when you're not at your best, because that's always a place of growth. Even the pain, and I've been through some powerful pain, ladies. It's a space of growth. It's a space of wholeness. That's what I would share with you around. Let them go. Get your tools, get your toys, get your fancy, whatever makes you feel whole and powerful and juicy and feminine, and keep that fire burning for you. For you.
Well, we have a question from Nurse Maria, as I said, our co-founder. But before we get there, I want to expand a little bit on what you said. When you talk about that inner fire, like I work with preventing burnout in healthcare workers. And interestingly, that fire is a level of positivity. And I mean, we're not telling you leave your partners. That's not the case at all. We're trying to say is when you develop that power in yourself, when you develop that positivity in yourself, your partner will ride that wave with you because you bring them along, you just pull them along. And you realize you start creating that sense of that bubble of positivity. And honestly, if your partner or your family members or somebody in your life doesn't want to ride that wave, there's no way you can force them. There's no way you can drag them along. And I remember going through this when I was married before. My ex-wife didn't want to change. And she wasn't in the mood for changing. And I could, no matter what I did, I couldn't bring her along with me. So eventually I had to accept this is what she wanted. And I gave her what she wanted, which was a divorce. So if your partner is there with you and you've been around with this person for years, trust me, they're there with you. They've been sticking around for that long. They've been around, they're committed. From a guy's point of view, we are committed. We're talking about then they will be there. And many of the women in this group have mentioned that their husbands, their significant others, their partners, and there's no significance here. I mean not state that correctly, but their partners are showing up on these sessions to learn because you're going through it. And this is one of the things that Anais mentioned is being okay with sharing, being okay with opening up. So let's get to the question first. And I want to come back to a little bit about that sharing aspect that women feel that they cannot share and how you would approach this, Anais. Before we get there.
Great point. That's a great point because, well, we'll get there, but
Yes.
let's pin that because let's pin it. Okay.
So Maria asked, Nurse Maria asked, how can bliss relate to the menopausal transition and to define bliss? So let's start with the definition and then talk about how it can help with the transition.
Bliss, we've all experienced it. It's a complex response. It's an embodied response to feeling safe, to feeling nurtured, to feeling loved by life, to feeling empowered, and to feel your connection, because that relationship is what first gave you the fire, and it's what sustains your inner fire. The bliss for me, I can tell you as a child, I would have bliss. My parents were they learned to be very liberal with me because they knew they could not fight my fire. They could not fight it. They had to ride my wave or we were going to have a lot of conflict because I was so sure of who I am. I would love nothing better on a hot summer day when the sky would break open into a massive thunderstorm to go out in my underwear and dance in the rain. That, okay. What I felt in my body, what I felt in my heart, what I felt moving through what I think of as my soul was such a beautiful, powerful connection that I felt absolute and total joy and happiness, as well as being safe, loved, and powerful. That's my definition of bliss. That every one of you has a unique set of combinations of what evokes that feeling in you. And that's what feeds your fire. So I'm going to encourage you to always find those. When now I don't go out and dance in my underwear in the rain anymore. But I can remember that. I can put on music. I can open up my whole feeling center to the joy of being in a body, a human body that can have that kind of connection with life. Does that help you?
Maria, what do you think? Does that answer your question?
Maria knows what her bliss is. I could see it in her smile.
Partially, it answers the question partially.
Okay, let's go deeper to ask me more.
Yes, how can bliss help women go through the anxiety and depression along with some of the negative vibes that comes along with menopause? How can I use that to help me to be more vibrant, positive?
Bliss is the antidote to that. Bliss is the antidote to anxiety, to depression. What has happened in our culture, in our lives, is we've been so separated from that feeling as we become adults. The joy of just being a human organism, especially female. We get so disconnected from that. So, Maria, I would invite you to maybe take 10 minutes a day and work with people that you know in women's circles, where part of your sharing is the honesty. This is how I feel today. I feel anxious, and I've been there. I still have days like that. I do. Because it's the relationships that I'm in, and it's the energy. And sometimes I'm in being impacted by energy that is the entanglement at a quantum level of my relationships with other people who may not be in the room with me, but I'm feeling them. And we're going through something, and I'm feeling that. This is how we relate. We really do relate this way. So take 10 minutes Find a space where you feel safe and comfortable. And this is, I teach everybody to do this. Take your two hands, because there's energy that comes out of our hands when we're alive and our bliss is working. Put it here on your heart center. Put your hands here and breathe and feel, listen quietly for the beat of your heart and hum. Use the sound of your voice and hum or sing. Sing a song where your throat opens up, or you can shout. You can do whatever you need to do to express and allow the energy to move. There's only 5 ways for energy to move. There's push. Sometimes we get into push, and that brings on anxiety and stress because we're trying to push against something that we feel isn't working. I don't recommend doing that overly long. And in our lives today, it's very stressful. There's pull, where you're attracting support, where you're attracting your own empowerment and awareness. Then there are moments where we really do have to pause, where energy has to go into rest. Because our journey in a circle is feeling, flow, focus, so that we become aware of the forms that we're creating that we live inside of. I would invite you to use those 4 words, sit quietly. You can take 10 minutes. Can you take 10 minutes a day? I know you got a busy life. Yeah?
I can.
Okay. Okay. And you can think of something that's really funny to you, something that makes you laugh, something that one of your kids said, or an experience you have that just makes you. One of the things I had a singing experience in a major an entertainment hall in the United States. I didn't know it was going to happen. Bobby McFerrin came up to me. I was at his concert. I'd won 2 tickets. And he came up to me, got down off the stage. He does this in his concert. I didn't know he was going to do it. And he walked up to me with a microphone. And it was like, hey. And I'm like, okay. And I stood up and he started singing. And I just followed his energy and I just sang. I didn't care about the other 3,000 people in the auditorium. I was focused right on Bobby McFerrin and feeling this amazing creative energy. When I get to the place where it's like, oh God, I gotta get out of bed today, I don't want to get out of bed today. I will remember that moment, and I will remember the sound of my voice coming through without any fear, without any obstruction. Take 10 minutes, Maria, and be you. Be only you. You might find your bliss.
Powerful stuff. Powerful stuff. And I gotta say, I mean, I will second you on that, Anais. I do this kind of thing every morning myself, where I spend the 20 minutes in my morning just building my energy. And everybody, you would think that this is so outside of medicine, but this is medicine. This is a big part of medicine. And if you don't know, Anais was involved in Russia with healing burns victims.
Yes.
Yes, and using these same energy levels and having positive results on burns victims. And if you don't know, burns victims, they lose their ability because they don't have the skin, or they don't have a lot of the other stuff. They're quite alive and alert, but they can't do anything. They're so exposed to infection, they can't do anything. And a simple touch, like just touching a cold surface, has such a profound effect on them that a lot of them come out of their revere just by those simple touches. I know I was reading, doing a little bit of research, and I saw that. I was like, that was amazing. So, yeah, so share a little bit about that with us.
Well, what got me there was a what if. I heard this little stray thought, what if, because I was beginning to discover the healing energy that will move through my hands. And I was like, what if I could bring this to burn patients? I didn't know any burn patients. It was just an idea. What if? This is the power of the 9 essential questions. What if? And when you let that loose, everything just came. Connections came. The next thing I knew, I was presenting a paper for someone I barely knew at an international health and wellness conference in Richmond, Virginia. And who was there? Deepak Chopra. That's where I met him. I was like, oh my, he wasn't famous then. And I met someone, there was people there from all over the world. And I met this one, I had gone with a piece of paper. This is what I'd like to do. Like, totally, right? And I had taken the trouble of getting certified as an emergency medical technician because I thought the high woo-woo stuff is only going to carry me so far. All right. I'm handing out these papers. I handed out this one guy, Dr. Sasha Goldberg, and he reads it and he says, oh, this is very interesting. He said, I can't get you to Moscow, but if you can get yourself there, you can come to my hospital and teach my students and work with my patients. Are you kidding? I'm like, okay. He gave me his card. I then was teaching workshops. I taught enough workshops to generate enough healing energy workshops to make enough bank to buy my ticket, get my journalist visa, get my beep beep on a plane, land in Moscow, not speaking a word of Russian and not knowing a soul. It all happened through networking. I was met at the airport by a lovely young woman who became my interpreter. And the adventure began. And after doing that bliss work of every morning, imagining that this would all just unfold and I didn't have to control it, people started showing up. I got interviews, I got in, and it just happened. And then I'm on the men's burn ward of the Sklifosofsky Institute, and I am working with these patients, and I'm finding out just what energy can do in terms of healing and helping to relieve suffering and also the limitations, because doesn't work for everybody. But there's still a relationship of compassion and care that happens. Yeah. So amazing. I was just like, I mean, everything. I had hired a driver. You cannot, the stories are amazing. I just need to write just one book about that whole experience. But the results were fabulous. And the doctors were blown away and they were open then to collaboration. That's bliss.
I gotta say, folks, this is how the White Rose community started. Maria had the what if question and then said, what if I do this? And that what if led to what is happening today and us really trying to help women through the menopause journey. And it's growing. It's always growing for us. So yes, that what if question. Now we did put a pin on something, but before
Yes,
we
we
get to
did.
that pin,
Okay.
I want to put it out there. Anybody has any questions in the group at this moment they want to expand on, they want to ask?
I have a question for your audience, but let's take their questions first.
Yes, Sheila, you have to unmute yourself.
Yes, I like to know what this what she meant by Anais, what you meant by when you said to get your own toys. What does that consist of?
Well, we're talking about sexuality, and we're talking about if we're widowed or if we're divorced and we want to feel that fire that is actually regenerative to ourselves, being open to our own sexuality and the sensitivity and the feeling, and being able to engage in self-pleasure without any guilt or shame. And that's sometimes a huge barrier for people. But there are whole industries built around sexual toys. I say keep it simple. Keep it simple, keep it safe. But learning to have a different relationship with your own sexual, reproductive, external parts, your own vagina, because this is part of your second chakra. It's connected to your emotional body and your root chakra.
But isn't that a part what you describe? And there's like masturbation.
Well, if you want to call it that, you could. I think that's a very distorted male thing that women, I encourage you to get over it. Because your creator, once again, you got here through bliss. Bliss is a natural part of who you are, and it should be part of your feeling in your body. And if you need to remember, babies touch themselves all the time. Toddlers, they don't know any different, and they shouldn't. And it shouldn't become a source of shame. When we're able to do that, what we're doing is we're moving into a place of receiving, and we're receiving what we're able to share and give with ourselves with a sense of trust that it is natural, that it is not against any law of God or nature, but it's an imposition by structures of men and mind.
Okay, so I don't know who do you refer to as your creator?
Mm-hmm. I'm
He
an
has,
ordained minister.
yeah, okay, so he has a book with instructions.
Yes, well,
And he instructs us about what is clean and what is not, and what's acceptable and what is.
all right.
And so masturbation is not a clean thing to practice.
That is true in some mind organizations of interpretations of the idea of God. I read the Bible 3 times in my life, cover to cover. I started when I was 8. And I did go and become an ordained minister.
But you are giving your personal opinion. You're not giving this
No,
opinion according to what the
no,
Bible says.
no, I will stand my ground here. I'm talking about energy. The energy of God that I know is loving. And as Christ says, I require mercy, not sacrifice.
So the thing is that, I mean, I can tell you my personal point of view from God's word, the Bible, that practicing these things is not acceptable to my God,
Then
because he's
don't do
teaching
it.
different.
Then don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. If it's not acceptable to you, don't do it. Stay true to yourself. You've got to be authentic to what is really in your heart and in your mind and in your relationship and your understanding. That's sacrosanct to you. I would never suggest that you move off of that if that's what motivates your life. I also studied history, and I studied how the Bible came to come into existence. And not a lot of people know that history. I spent years studying that. So I know how the Bible came to be, where it came from, the Roman Empire's impact on what is called Christianity, the Judaic code that very strict, right? And all of this was a function of men, not God, men.
Okay. So I would join your discussion again, but I gotta go. I have another webinar to attend, and it was nice talking with you and the information.
Love yourself, Sheila. Love yourself in your body in a way that feels good to you.
I sure do. Believe me,
okay.
I do. Ask Maria. I'm her aunt.
So
okay, have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
She's got a gorgeous smile. She's doing fine.
Okay,
so,
Dr. Ken.
Nice having you, Sheila. Thanks for coming. But
okay.
I want to expand a little bit on what Anaiis was saying just now about the whole idea of masturbation and so on. So we have in the White Critics community, we've run in the past an intimacy event. And the intimacy event was really, we talked about tantric meditation. And that's just another form of, like Anaiis, I don't want to use the word of masturbation because it isn't really. It is really about generating intimacy with you, with yourself, for starting off, and with your partner. And that intimacy with yourself can start off with a simple thing like a breathing exercise, like what Anaiis was talking about, just breathing. Yes. And that allows you to center yourself and be more in tune with your own sexual desires. And this is not going away from anybody's religion or their beliefs, but it's a way to center you into it. And when you say, they talk about things like massage and,
Anyway, I'm so
yes,
sorry, but I have to go.
yes. Thank you, Shia, for coming. It's
Thank
such a
you.
pleasure having
Thank
you.
you for
And
bringing
thanks.
this into the discussion. This is
Yeah.
awesome.
Yes,
Thank you.
excellent. Right, so I want to share with everybody, we're not trying to take you away from your beliefs or make you change any of your beliefs. In this case, we're talking about a very broad spectrum, and that there's a big brushstroke, and that brushstroke can end up in a very, very huge area of you know sexuality. So,
And let me add this, because I'm glad you brought up the practice of intimacy and breath, because the same love and energy that helped me heal and generate stem cells in burn patients where they couldn't get any stem cells going is the same love and intimacy that we have available to be in relationship with, just sitting quietly with someone we love. So breath, feeling what you feel, you do not have to touch yourself to have an orgasm. You don't. But you got to practice. You got to practice how you feel about your body and what happens when you breathe and you relax and you let go of anything that is not authentic to who you are. You define what's authentic to you. Nobody else can define that for you. Nobody.
so unfortunately, we're running out of time this evening. We're coming to the end of it, and we do have that pin we left stuck in there. But
Okay.
I think Anaiis will have to have you back on the show to put to address that pin. And I really would love to come back to it, but we'll probably we'll talk again and we'll have you back again.
This has been really interesting, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. And our discussions always end up like this. They get really interesting, especially coming out to the end. But before you go, I want you to share with us where can we find you? And I'll post the links in the chat.
Okay, well, I could just put them in there.
Yeah, sure, you could do that.
Okay, because I kind of came prepared for that. Let me just take a second.
And you had a gift you said you sent to me. You can post that in the chat also.
I do. One of the things that I would love to give to your audience is my time. And so what I'm inviting people to do, and the link is there, is that we can just begin a conversation with a 15-minute, and we can go longer, or you bring me something that's going on in your life around who you are as an empowered woman and your experience of menopause, and I will sit in active listening and be present with you. That's my gift.
Awesome, beautiful gift. So all of Anais's links and her gift are going to be in the show notes, so you can find them there. I know we're coming out to the end of our discussion, so I want to end off with first reminding everybody of our upcoming 49-day weight loss challenge that's running by the White Rose community, right? The 49-day challenge is unlike other programs. This challenge focuses on nutrition and identifying and changing unhealthy eating habits. If you've been through, it's a transformative journey that allows you to be empowered in good nutrition. We have expert guidance, which is myself and Nurse Maria, that take you through the habits that you need to be, those unhealthy habits that can be replaced with healthier habits. So you have to identify what they are for. Our mission is simple: to help you build sustainable, healthy habits that last a lifetime. So no more yo-yo dieting or unrealistic expectations, just real lasting results. So the challenge, I'll post the challenge link here. Come join us. It starts on Thursday, and we start at 7 p.m. on Thursday. When you join the challenge, you'll get the link to the Zoom link, and it's 49 days. And we'll so come join us on the challenge, and you'll get an idea. Yes, Anaiis.
Love this, Dr. Khan. I would love to have a conversation with you about in my 8-week program that you could come in and offer this challenge to the people who go through my program. It would be smashing wonderful.
Awesome, I would love it. So, folks, I'm posting a the challenge here in the link. Yes, Anais, I would love to share this with you. We have other things coming up in the White Horse community. We'll announce it to everybody in the community. But that you'll see in the chat, you have all Anais's links, and then also the 49-day challenge. Come join us. Just click on the website, you get it. So folks, Anais, it has been an unbelievable pleasure having you. Maria, are you still here?
Yes, I am.
Awesome, awesome. So we want to close off. So on behalf of myself and Nurse Maria, I'm sure Nurse Maria wants to say something. Thank you for coming on. We have to continue this conversation another time. We will be happy to have you back again. Does anybody in the community have any last questions before we go through our thank yous and close off?
Thank you for having me. Thank you for
you.
sharing time and space and your audience.
Awesome. Thank you for being here.
I hope it sparked some stuff.
It certainly did. Look at the discussion at the end. We should have brought it up earlier. Maria, the floor is yours.
I just want to say thank you very much, Ms.
So
Anaiis,
welcome.
for your time and your energy. And just as things was getting spicy, we had to we had to stop. But you know, you're welcome to come back and speak to us anytime.
Thank you. It's been fun, and I'm so glad to meet you and love what you're doing. And it's just a beautiful gift to give to your world and our world. Thank you so much for doing it.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Sorry tonight for the live YouTube channel. This just didn't go up. Little technical difficulty there. The recording for this will be posted on YouTube, if not by tomorrow, by Thursday. Follow us on YouTube. It's called A Healthy Reset. You can find the videos on YouTube. I will have it posted in the group. Follow us, listen to the videos. We have a few shorts on there. Shorts are going to be coming up pretty often, little short videos that Maria is talking about different aspects of menopause. We'll talk about different aspects of health. Remember, the challenge is coming up. And of course, go check out Anaiis. She gave us this awesome gift of having a one-on-one with her where she is going to just listen to everything you have to say. Thank you, Anaiis and Maria. It's been a pleasure. Everyone, thank you for coming. And we'll see you next week. If not on a challenge, we'll see you either on Sunday on our usual walk or on next week, Tuesday, for another episode of The Healthy Reset. And we have another speaker next week that I'll post to the group. Thank you, everyone, and have an awesome evening. All right, Anaiis, it's been a pleasure.